Here is a number that should stop you cold. Studies on consumer behavior show that the average American spends over $18,000 per year on non-essential purchases, things they didn't plan to buy, didn't need, and often regret within 48 hours. That's not a budgeting problem. That's not a discipline problem. That is a brain problem. And today we're going to talk about exactly why your brain is wired to keep you broke, and more importantly, how to rewire it. Because once you understand the biology, you stop blaming yourself and start engineering your way out. Let's start with dopamine, because this is where it all begins. When you buy something, anything, your brain releases a small flood of dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. The catch is, your brain releases dopamine in anticipation of the purchase, not after it. That's why scrolling through a shopping cart feels better than actually receiving the package. The moment you click Buy Now, the dopamine spike begins to fade. This is why people constantly upgrade, constantly add to cart, constantly chase the next purchase. It's not greed, it's neuroscience. Your brain is running a reward loop that was designed for survival in a world where resources were scarce, and getting food or shelter gave you a hit of dopamine to reinforce that behavior. That system is still running. It just got hijacked by Amazon Prime. Saving money, by contrast, produces almost no dopamine. Neither does watching your index fund balance tick up 0.3% on a Tuesday. The rational part of your brain understands that compounding wealth is the better move, but the emotional brain, the dopamine-driven limbic system, doesn't care about compound interest. It wants the hit now. This is not a character flaw. This is literally how the architecture of your brain works. And until you understand that, you'll keep fighting your biology with willpower alone and losing every time. The second mechanism keeping you broke is called loss aversion, and it was documented by two of the most important researchers in behavioral economics, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. What they found in study after study is that the pain of losing $100 is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining $100. Your brain treats losses and gains completely asymmetrically. Losing $100 is not the opposite of finding $100. It hurts more, a lot more, and this has cascading effects on your financial life. It's why people hold on to losing stocks far too long. Selling would make the loss real, and the brain will do almost anything to avoid that feeling. It's why people keep money in a savings account earning 0.01% interest instead of investing it. The stock market might go down, and that imagined loss feels more vivid than the guaranteed slow erosion of inflation. It's why people avoid the stock market entirely after one bad experience. The loss aversion system is running in the background of every financial decision you make, and most of the time, you don't even know it. The third problem is present bias, and this one is particularly brutal when it comes to retirement. Your brain is genuinely incapable of feeling the future the way it feels the present. Neuroscience research has actually shown that when people think about their future selves, the same brain regions activate as when they think about strangers. Your 65-year-old self is a stranger to your brain, which is why it is so easy to skip the 401k contribution today, because today feels real and retirement feels abstract. But run the math and it becomes devastating. Every $100 you don't invest at 25 is roughly $1,000 you don't have at 65, assuming a 7% average annual return over 40 years. Not contributing $500 a month in your 20s doesn't cost you $500 a month. It costs you over $2.6 million by retirement. Present bias makes that $500 feel more real than the $2.6 million. And statistically, it wins that argument most of the time. Then there's the scarcity mindset, and this one cuts deep for anyone who grew up without financial security. Research led by Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shaffer at Harvard and Princeton found something remarkable. Financial stress doesn't just feel bad, it actually reduces your cognitive bandwidth. When your mind is preoccupied with not having enough money, it consumes mental resources that would otherwise go to long-term thinking, creativity, and decision-making. They called it the bandwidth tax. People under financial stress make systematically worse decisions, not because they're less intelligent, but because their mental resources are being consumed by scarcity. The problem is that for many people, this state of mind persists even after income improves. If your nervous system was trained to expect scarcity, it will keep operating in reactive, short-term mode even when the numbers in your bank account say otherwise. The programming runs deeper than the balance sheet, and then social media made everything worse. Your brain evolved to benchmark yourself against a tribe of roughly 150 people, the people you actually lived with and competed with for resources. Now the tribe is infinite and curated. You're comparing your everyday life to the highlight reel of millions of people, many of whom are in debt to maintain the appearance they're projecting. The research is consistent. Heavy social media use is correlated with increased spending, lower savings rates, and higher reported financial stress. It's not because people are weak, it's because the comparison mechanism in your brain is working exactly as designed. It just has a 24/7 feed of people with boats, luxury vacations, and designer everything to run that comparison against. Lifestyle inflation is the natural result. As your income rises, your brain automatically recalibrates what normal looks like based on what you're consuming, and your spending rises to match. But here's the piece most financial content completely ignores: the identity problem. Your financial behavior is not primarily driven by information. If it were, everyone who knew they should save more would save more. Financial behavior is driven by identity. Who you believe you are determines what actions feel natural. If your self-image is, "I'm not good with money," or "I'm not the type to invest," your brain will consistently steer you toward decisions that confirm that story. It's called identity-consistent behavior, and it operates below the level of conscious decision-making. The brain is an identity protection machine. It will filter information, rationalize choices, and manufacture reasons to stay consistent with the story it believes about you. This is why information alone doesn't change behavior. You have to change the identity before the behavior shifts. So here's how you rewire it. And these are not motivational suggestions. These are engineering solutions to the specific biological problems we just outlined. First, automate everything. The dopamine problem means you can't trust yourself to manually transfer money to savings every month, because every month there will be a reason it feels better to spend it instead. Set up automatic transfers to happen on payday before you ever see the money. Remove the decision entirely. You can't make the wrong choice if there's no choice to make. Second, reframe investing as buying freedom, not losing money. Your brain hates loss. So don't frame investing as giving up money today. Frame it as purchasing future optionality. Every contribution is a unit of future freedom you own that can never be taken back. That reframe shifts the emotional math and makes the investment feel like a gain instead of a loss. Third, use implementation intentions instead of vague goals. Research by psychologist Peter Gallwitzer shows that if then planning dramatically increases follow-through. Don't say, "I'll invest more." Say, "Every payday at 9 a.m., $400 moves to my Roth IRA automatically." Specificity collapses the gap between intention and action. Fourth, rename your accounts. This sounds trivial, and it is not. Naming a savings account Freedom Fund or Future Self changes how your brain processes it. You're anchoring the account to your identity and your goal. Studies show people are significantly less likely to spend money from an account that has a meaningful label. Use it. Fifth, install the 24-hour rule for any unplanned purchase over $100. Sleep on it. The dopamine spike that made the purchase feel essential will drop substantially in 24 hours, and you'll make a clearer decision. Most impulse purchases never happen when you introduce a delay. And sixth, this one is uncomfortable, but it's the most powerful. Take a hard look at who you spend the most time with. The research on social influence and financial behavior is unambiguous. Your habits, attitudes toward money, and spending patterns are heavily shaped by your 5 closest relationships. This isn't about cutting people off. It's about being intentional. Seek out people who are building wealth, talking about investing, and making deliberate financial choices. That environment recalibrates your brain's sense of what's normal. Here is what all of this comes down to. You did not choose to have a dopamine system that rewards spending over saving. You did not choose to have a brain that feels losses more sharply than gains. You did not choose to have a present bias that makes your future self feel like a stranger. That is not your fault. But the moment you understand the wiring, you step out of the role of the victim and into the role of the engineer. You build systems that work with your biology instead of against it. You change the identity story instead of fighting the behavior directly. And over time, the defaults shift. Wealth-building behavior starts to feel normal, natural, and automatic because you built an environment where it is. If this hit home, drop a comment with which bias hit closest to home for you. The dopamine trap, loss aversion, present bias, or the identity piece. I read every comment. Hit like if this opened your eyes to something real, and subscribe because we break down the money conversations that actually move the needle every single week. I'll see you in the next one.